We're following a developing story involving yet another one of President Trump's U.S. attorneys. A federal appeals court ruled that Alina Habba, the president's former personal attorney, is unlawfully serving as the U.S. attorney in New Jersey. It's the same reason a federal judge in Virginia dismissed the Justice Department's cases against James Comey and Letitia James. CNN's Caitlin Polantz is following the story. Seeing a pattern here, Caitlin.
There is a bit of a pattern. The big picture is that the appeals court today, now this is appeals court that only applies to Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, of course. What they are saying is that the Justice Department, the Trump administration, they can't do a runaround of Congress if there's somebody that is nominated to one of these U.S. attorney positions and then doesn't get confirmed by the Senate. That's what happened with Habba. Then the Trump administration tried to stick her in through sort of the back door, the career door of that U.S. attorney's office to elevate her into the role. They said, that's not right. With Lindsay Halligan and some others, there's different circumstances, but the message is clear. You can't just give someone the authority to be the U.S. attorney because you want them to be in that job. You actually have to go through the process of having congressional approval for people like this.
So, Alina Habba, people who were tuned in during the president's trials when he was facing, particularly in New York, when he was facing personal troubles, they were very familiar with her because she came out and she talked to the cameras a lot.
Yeah.
What do we think is going to happen next there?
Well, now we have to wait and see exactly what the Justice Department does. Do they appeal again? They have that possibility to go either to the full Third Circuit Court of Appeals. This was 3 judges in unanimity here saying that she cannot be the acting U.S. attorney in this manner. They can go to the Supreme Court next. Right now, she's going to be disqualified from overseeing 2 criminal cases where they had protested, and Abbe Lowell, who argued this for these criminal defendants, said that they're going to continue challenging Trump's unlawful appointments of these U.S. attorney appointees. He also is one of the people challenging Lindsay Halligan in the Eastern District of Virginia, though there's no appeal there. But there's a lot going on here, and it also wasn't a great week for Alina Habba, in that she also was just sanctioned, and a federal appeals court upheld a sanction for her being an attorney for Trump in a civil case where he tried to sue Hillary Clinton and a lot of other people. So what happens next, how far the administration goes to protect people like her and Lindsay Halligan is still a question on the table. We have to watch and see the filings.
I will say, during the break, we were dorking out about the system kind of working, checks and balances working their magic, and this is one of those moments.
A federal appeals court ruling that Alina Habba was serving unlawfully as the U.S. attorney for New Jersey. What does this mean for the Trump administration?
Well, it's a setback yet again, Wolf, to the Trump administration's efforts to install temporary U.S. attorneys. Now, this is the first time a court of appeals, that mid-level, has ruled on this issue. We've actually seen rulings from 4 different district courts, including last week on the Jim Comey and Letitia James cases. Now, this shifts us up to New Jersey. This relates to Alina Habba. Today's ruling was actually a unanimous 3-0 ruling by appeals judges who, I should say, were put on the bench, one of them by Barack Obama, 2 of them by the Republican George W. Bush. And essentially what this appeals court has ruled is that when there is no fully Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney, when there's a vacancy, as there was in New Jersey, the president, through the attorney general, gets 1 temporary appointment of 120 days. Now, that happened with Alina Habba. The problem is, then they tried to re-up her for another temporary 120 days and another one. And they tried to use all sorts of backdoors. And this Court of Appeal says, no, it does not work that way. The law says the president gets 1 temporary 120-day appointment, and that's it. So as of now, Alina Habba is disqualified as the U.S. attorney for New Jersey. A lot of uncertainty about what that means for the rest of the office's docket and caseload, but yet another legal setback for the administration, Wolf.
Major legal setback indeed. Elie Honig, thank you very, very much.
Ryan Goodman is out front now, out front legal analyst. So Ryan, let's just start on this development here. Lindsay Halligan first, now Alina Habba, and that was one that had been simmering, but maybe some thought had kind of gone on the back burner enough that it might go away. And now, no, they're saying she's also unlawfully serving. This is a 1-2 punch. Do these things hold?
The big question is what the Supreme Court will decide, and I suppose in some ways the prior question is whether or not the Trump administration will take it to the Supreme Court. They could let it rest. But it looks as though they're just losing, the Trump administration, across the board when the judges are looking into these questions about these interim U.S. attorneys that have not gotten Senate confirmation. And this is a very strong rebuke. It's a 3-0 decision, and 2 of the judges are conservative judges appointed by Republican presidents.
Right. So when Trump comes out and talks about the biased judiciary and Democratic judges, activist judges, even by his own logic, which of course judiciary would not hold for judiciary, but wouldn't hold in this case.
It doesn't. And the courts here, I think, are handling a very different issue than a lot of the other issues that are being litigated across the country, which is this is really about an officer of the court, the U.S. attorney. So they really are protective of that and of their own prerogatives, because by statute they get to appoint somebody if, in fact, there is not a Senate confirmed person after a certain point in time. So they really are handling like internal business, and I think they'll look after their own interests in that regard.